Hey, welcome to Riding Shotgun, and it's Tuesday, and it's the day before the Illinois at Indiana basketball game. Our snow has melted. It says 40 degrees right now. I didn't bring Alfie because I thought it was too muddy, and now that I'm back here, probably could have. But nevertheless, hope you're doing well. That game tomorrow night is at 7:30 Central Time over in Bloomington. You know, it's interesting because after the loss at Wisconsin, after that, it felt like the arrow was pointed up. They played better in that next game, which was at Michigan, which was at home against Michigan State. They didn't win that game, but I think most people applauded the effort and the improvement. And then the next game after that was the Indiana home game, which they won. And then the game after that was an unexpectedly lopsided 31-point victory over Rutgers. And then they went to Ohio State, and you know, I suppose you can look at that game either way. They played really, really well at first. They had one of their patented long scoring droughts, and yet with you know, a couple minutes to go in the game, it's right there. And they end up losing that game, but there's enough good that happens in that game that, you know, probably didn't throw them off course that far. And then they come back home and play Wisconsin again, and lose and don't look particularly good doing it. And then the other night against Penn State, albeit shorthanded with Michael Finke out with a concussion, you know, they hang with them. Penn State, by the way, really like that team, like that starting five. They don't have much bench, but that's a much improved team that got that way once Pat Chambers started to recruit successfully in Philadelphia. And anyhow, they're up by 4 with seconds to go in the first half, and if you saw the game, you know what happened. It had sort of a disastrous end of the first half. Penn State shoots an air ball 3, grabs it, throws it to the corner, a 3-pointer. I think that might have been Garner's, but I can't remember. Bring them within 1. Illinois gets the ball out of bounds under the baseline. Another typical play for Illinois this year. Disaster on the inbounds play. Mark Allstork steps over the line. Turnover. Penn State gets it, throws it into Tony Carr, who scores. And instead of up by 4, within a matter of 6 seconds, Illinois is down by 1. That said, they come out in the second half, and Penn State doesn't just throttle them. Penn State doesn't score their first 5 possessions of the half. But when it became apparent Illinois was going to go well beyond that, Penn State started making plays, and all of a sudden it's Penn State by 14. Illinois goes on another one of those crazy scoring droughts, and then don't particularly finish with any great effort down the stretch. And you know, you could see Brad's frustration on the sideline at one point, yelling at Trent Frazier. Trent Frazier was having a rough night. They were guarding the heck out of him, which teams are going to do now. I mean, you know, why wouldn't you, right? Why wouldn't you make somebody else beat you? And Trent kind of jacked one, and Brad turned around and, Trent, you're 2 for 100, trying to get him to get into some offense, and that was sort of the frustration level. And so right now the arrow feels like it's certainly going down again, and I guess that's the question going to Indiana. Can they turn this around again? Can they get back to playing good ball, or are they done winning games this season? And you know, I was just finished up a little bit ago on a teleconference with Brad, a few of us in the media on there with him, and one thing he said was Michael Finke is still in concussion protocol, so he'll be evaluated again today, it sounded like. So they'll make a judgment on him at that time whether or not he is available for the Indiana game. And but you know, one of the things we got to talking about, and we've talked about it before, I've talked about it here, you know, I talked about the 2 things I keep coming back to is the brand and the culture. And therein is the difference between, one of the differences between Illinois and Indiana. Illinois has gone through a poor time on the court, right? They haven't been winning. They haven't been getting in the NCAA tournament. The brand has been tarnished ever since the 2005 season, if you agree that the following year, 2006, was at least a step down from there, which it was, then you can say that it's been in a varying degrees of decline ever since. And you know, Indiana, despite whatever troubles they may have in a given season or a given couple of seasons, because their brand was stronger to begin with the national championships they've enjoyed, it's never gotten to the state where Illinois is in. And what happens is when the brand gets there, it becomes difficult, really difficult to recruit to that brand. And, you know, you become irrelevant nationally. And I know that's something that's hard for hardcore Illinois fans to hear, but I mean, you'd have to admit that it's true. You know, you don't flip on the TV on Saturday afternoon when there's college basketball going on all over the place and hear them in a discussion about Illinois making its tournament run, Illinois locking up a higher seed, Illinois this, Illinois that. If anything, it's, you know, whatever happened to Illinois, and so that's not good. And then when we get to March Madness, which is the most exciting part of the college basketball season, Illinois is nowhere to be seen or found. And these kids that they're recruiting now, they don't know who Dee Brown was. Are you kidding me? They were 5 years old. They don't remember any of that stuff. You remembered. I remembered. It's important to us because it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, and it was an unbelievable moment. But that's ancient history to kids nowadays. And so you've got to recruit above that, beyond that. And that's hard. And then there's culture. And Brad brought it up today about he didn't like the locker room the other night and the mood in the locker room. And he questions, do they understand how much this means? He says, one of the reasons I took the job is because I know how much it means. He remembers when the Illinois brand was strong. He knows that to Illinois fans, to Illinois alums, that basketball still means a lot, that these losses, like the other night to Penn State, mean a lot. They hurt those people. And I don't think that, he was saying, I don't think our guys get that. I tell you one thing, at Indiana, the players get that. That they know that if they don't play well, there's a weight of history that comes with it. And they carry that. And they don't want to be the group that disappoints 17,000 fans at Assembly Hall in Bloomington. They don't want to be the group that delivers the pain of letdown. They don't want to be the group that tarnishes the brand. And I think all that is lost on the current Illinois kids. And I don't know what the answer is for that. It's a big challenge for Brad. And it was a big challenge for, I don't think Bruce saw it because in the same way, because he had lived when the brand was at its strongest, when kids didn't want to let anybody down, when they could see that losing a game was more than losing a game, and then John, you know, probably saw it and couldn't do anything about it. And it's Brad's job now to somehow restore both of those things: the strength of the brand and the importance of the culture. And I don't know what the answer is. I know that it will have to change by changing the roster through recruiting. I do get that. But those kids have got to be, maybe they need to be put in front of groups of fans in the off season that tell them stories, that tell them how it hurt them when they played so poorly at Wisconsin, how it hurt them when they gave away games to Maryland, and when they finished so poorly against Northwestern up there in Rosemont, and those kinds of games, how it hurt them and embarrassed them when they didn't win against New Mexico State at the United Center, and that it's not just a game. It's more important than that to a lot of people. You know, I mean, I don't think it needs to be, reinstated that if it doesn't need to be overemphasized to the point where kids think that, oh my God, I'm going to be excommunicated from the human race. But they do need to understand that this stuff means a lot, and that's part of the culture. And as Bruce says, the name on the front of the jersey. And so I don't know how they go about that, but that's part of the challenge. You can talk about nitpick this X and O, nitpick that starting lineup, this lineup combination. Yes, all those things matter in the course of a game. I do get that, but there's a bigger picture thing going on that has to be addressed and fixed. And so when you're thinking about the long-range improvements of Illinois basketball, and by the way, ditto for Illinois football, it's those things that kind of come into play as well. And I know that they spend a lot of time talking about those things. They showed them film clips either yesterday or the day before of lots of successful players and the excitement they show, the emotion they show, the anguish they show. He said the other night, he says there was some times in the second half when, and there have been at other points in the season where I look at us and think, well, we must be at a funeral. There's nobody doing anything on the bench. There's nobody excited. There's nobody, in a obviously in a 1-point game, DeMonte hits that shot. The last time I can remember him making a shot. That's probably not accurate. But, yeah, there's excitement. But it should be like that more often, And so, I think in Trent Frazier, you see a guy who gets excited, who's into it, who kind of gets it. Even though he's an out-of-state kid, far out of state from Florida, he gets it. The other guys, I don't see them getting it. And, man, that's a big challenge for this coaching staff as they try to reshape a basketball team, a basketball program, and a basketball program's future. Football, really Lovey rolling the dice on his defensive line coach hire. And I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying, because I don't know this guy, Austin Clark, 27 years old, grad assistant from Southern Cal, named the defensive line coach. This is a guy that, a week ago was making, what's he making? McDonald's for lunch money. Now he's making $245,000 a year. That's a pretty good deal. A little less than the $440 Mike Fair was winning, but Mike Fair had quite a resume by comparison. And yet this might be the right guy. This might be the right guy. Lovey said he came in and blew him away in the job interview with his enthusiasm, with his preparation, with his knowledge, with his plan. And you know what? If they're right and they've got a young coaching savant on the way up, and they benefit because he played with Hardy Jr. and they knew a little bit more about him than the average person would, and were willing to take this chance, and they're right, and he connects with their guys, then right on. What a great hire that could be. And if they're wrong, then, but isn't it, it's that way, isn't it, with all of these hires? It's probably more so with offensive and defensive line coaches, because I think those are next to the coordinators. Those are the most important hires that you make. But he's going to have some interesting toys to play with when he gets here, and he's here. So as soon as spring practice starts, March 5th will be day one meetings. March 6th will be day one on the field practice. This is a kid who's from Tampa, Florida, who's recruited Cali, or had experience in the recruiting game in California when he was at Cal as a player, and was working as a recruiting assistant there, and then certainly in trying to identify kids and speak to them during their campus visits as a grad assistant with Southern Cal. So where will he recruit? Will he recruit in Florida, where Illinois has obviously concentrated a great deal of its efforts, or will he give them another voice in California, or perhaps both? They've certainly strengthened their California attempt to recruit with Rod Smith joining Hardy Nickerson out there. Hardy in the northern and central part of the state down to the northern part of LA, and Rod Smith from San Diego on up to the rest of LA, but an extra body out there who has some, may have some knowledge out there, that could be helpful as well. So really anxious to meet him. We haven't had an opportunity to do that yet. Lovey still has one spot to fill. I think it's going to be a linebackers coach, which would allow Donnie Abraham, who's a little more experienced now, to handle the entire secondary, probably with a little bit of an assist from Lovey, and then would allow Hardy to coordinate the defense, and then bring in a linebackers coach who can work specifically with that position group. So, I'm anxious for spring to get here and see that. I was kind of bothered the other night during the basketball game when I found myself, you know, it's almost always, well, football will be over and we can get to the start of basketball practice, right? And the other night I was thinking, wow, basketball will be over when I get to the start of spring football practice. And I didn't really like that feeling. And I hope Brad wouldn't like it either, that I had it or other people had it, that, and I know he's working his tail off. I know people are frustrated and people love to affix blame, and if you want to blame the coaching staff, that's fine. Everybody can have their opinion. I'm not going that direction at this point. I am disappointed that they haven't made better headway, but you know, as I tried to outline there in those bigger picture challenges, they've got some tough things in front of them to deal with. Recruiting would be good. Let's get a couple new names in the mix here. Somebody that can really shoot that three, and obviously they need a big guy who can get in there and help them inside as they continue to develop Ebo. So we will see tomorrow night. Don't know if Michael Finke's playing or not. Don't know what Kipper's status is. It appeared to me that Brad definitely did not want to start him the other night when he started Aaron Jordan in his place. Kipper's maybe an embodiment of part of what's wrong. He is, on one hand, he can be the face of the answer for them, and on the other hand, he's the face of the inconsistency to them. And the fact that they don't know from week to week which of those it's going to be is a problem. And to different degrees, that could be said of other players as well. So they continue to work at it, and we'll see tomorrow night, 7:30. I am not going to Bloomington. I'm not going to any further road games, at least unless something totally weird happens. I've got an assignment locally of some importance to us on the 20th when Illinois plays at Michigan State. So I'm not going to go to that game, and probably won't tweet during it either, because I'm going to be out at this other assignment. And then I was not planning to go to Rutgers anyhow. So, and then with the tournament in New York City, not going to that. Neither is anybody else I know of. I know I talked to Scott Ritchie from the Champaign News-Gazette. He's not going. I don't think somebody will probably go. So I don't want to say nobody's going, but you know, that really shoots it down for us. So anyhow, that's all. Thanks for riding along. Appreciate it a lot. Thanks for your comments last week. Appreciate those of you who enjoyed the story about my dog, and I apologize, I guess, although not wholeheartedly, for anyone that was offended that I wasted their time with a dog story. I tried to warn you that I was going to do it at the end, and you could bail if you didn't want to listen, but whatever. It is February the 13th. Don't forget tomorrow, Valentine's Day, boys and girls. You better get your sweetie something. Don't say I didn't remind you. Over now.